Hello and welcome back, people. Welcome to an adventures with truth. It's been a while. Been a while. A lot of things have been happening in the world. Some good things, some not so good things, and some just outright crazy things. And I've been just watching, watching from the fences, trying to make sense of it all. 'Cause that seems to be, one of the most difficult things right now to make sense of it all. Election season is coming up. I think we are just 1 month away. That is from the announcement of election dates and how it's gonna go down and everything, right? So yeah, that's that. Farmers are doing their thing. It's the protest season again because of course, right? You want government to pay attention. You gotta ask them when the time is right. Gotta strike when the iron is hot, and that's what's up. That's happening. Tucker Carlson just did an interview with Vladimir Putin. That was fascinating, you know, in a lot of ways, I think. Not sure if you've seen it, you must go and give it a watch. Yeah, UCC is going high and strong in Uttarakhand. Madrasas are getting demolished. People are being told to, what to do, who to sleep with, who to fuck, who not to fuck. And yeah, and we are just here to try to make sense of it all. A lot of things that I wanna talk about. So I'm gonna just try to, club everything into this one episode. Because who knows? There might be just more pressing matters by the next week. We might not get to discuss all of those things or how I see things, right? Pakistan election has been a shit show. They've broken their own rules of constitution, their own. Not that it matters, because on papers, of course, Pakistan has a constitution, but the people who follow it and the people who enforce it don't really, pay attention to the things that are written there. They just go willy-nilly. That's happening. Borders are getting sealed, the Haryana border and everything. And yeah, we're trying to see where it takes us. I walk around Delhi these days. Of course, the traffic has always been crazy, but due to the fact that we are expecting a mini invasion of sorts, from other states, there's just crazy barricades everywhere. A lot of roads are shut down. Borders are sealed. You know, Tikri border, Sindhu border, and everything. Uh, yeah. So let's just start by one thing, and that thing would be the collapse of metro stations. You know, I'm sure you heard about first one the wall collapsed in, but Kokilapur metro station. One person even died. The wall of the metro station just fell on them. 4 or 5 people were injured. Bunch of vehicles were damaged, and we thought that was going to be the end of it. But recently, I think 2 or 3 days ago, there was another mishap. Another infrastructure fell. That got me thinking. Like when we think about metro, especially Delhi metro, people, of course, really like it. It's a great, I think, means of public transport. Saves traffic, saves time. Often it can even, be quite cheap compared to other transports, be it your own vehicle or taking a taxi or a cab or something, right? And of course, there's always police personnel, CRPF posted around the metro stations. So it gives people a sense of safety and security. Now you might not be able to find a police station, but if you can find a metro station, police might be around. So there's a sense of safety there, even for women, especially working women who are traveling late at night, at odd hours, and metro is probably I would say, the safest means of transportation for them. But what happens, when people start fearing that, and the walls just start might coming down. I might be just standing in the parking lot, parking my bike there, my scooty, my car, whatever, and things just might fall off. It And it's not just about the metro stations, because if you can find cost cutting and problem with the infrastructure in the stations, then what about all the rail lines which are set up? Is the metro gonna fall out of the sky? Nah, I don't. I mean, I think it is a bit of irrational to believe that, but it's not completely out of the picture. The odds are not zero. The probability is not zero, or it's not even close to zero, as the recent events have revealed us. And makes me think that, especially in Delhi, if people get kind of reluctant to use public transportation, and of course, in last 10 to 15 years, there has been no infrastructure development in the Delhi, other than of course the new parliament building and all. The roads are the same, if not worse. You know, and of course, you see most of the cars have months of waiting. People are buying cars like crazy, which is actually good, because economy is getting somewhat strong. People have more opportunities now, making more money. But the roads are the same. So if the roads are the same, and you have so much more traffic now, where is it gonna go? If only the Delhi government has, focused on making the city look like a capital of a great nation. I mean, we are not a great nation yet. We have some things to look after, but sure, we are on our way to become a great power and a great nation. What? Yeah, the culture has been great for the most part until you start seeing the things about UCCs and everything going on. So yeah, I mean, of course, TMRC has ordered a probe into an investigation audit of all the recently made stations and architecture, infrastructure, buildings, plans, just to figure out what went wrong. But time will tell. I don't know if DMRC will tell us if they find any problems. I'm sure they're gonna keep the information to themselves, but hopefully they'll try to correct the things which were not done right in the first place. Although they should have been, but I guess time will tell. So then let's just talk about Uttarakhand and UCC for a second. Now, I am all for UCC, Uniform Civil Code, because at its heart, the idea stands for equality in a way. It says that in the eyes of the law, it doesn't matter what your religion is, what your faith is, what your beliefs are, what kind of world that you want to live in. You're all equals, and nobody will have more rights than the other person. Because right now there are, different religions and different culture who are treated differently in the eyes of the law. But that's not how it should be. We often say law is blind. It doesn't have, or at least it's not supposed to have, biases. And in that case, well, the idea is good. But then when you try to get away from the macros and get into the micros, try to see the details and how things are panning out, things start to seem look crazy. I was almost ready to, what do you say, give a great shout out and support to Mr. CM Dhami, yeah, the Chief Minister of Uttarakhand right now, for getting rid of all the madrasas. Well, not all, but the one particular that you know about, which was demolished, and of course it caused crazy riots in Haldwani. And believe it or not, government ordered a shoot at sight, fucking shoot at sight. I mean, that's not something you get to see very easily. But is it an overstep? I think it is. It's an overkill. It's use of excessive force, as they call it. Because of course people are rioting, but that doesn't mean that everybody who is out on the streets, or if just two people are standing there, doesn't mean that they have some malintention. And for the government to just say that you are not allowed to get out of your homes, and if you do, you'll be shot at sight, that seems oddly similar to the what autocratic situations, dictatorships that we have seen in the past. You're not supposed to leave your home, and for if any reason you have to risk the chance of getting shot on sight. I mean, that sounds like an invasion. That's what armies and crazy people do. That's what mercenaries and militias do. The point is to eliminate the enemy, though, to wipe them off the face of the earth. It doesn't matter what the reason behind them is, doesn't matter what their cause is, what was their goal in doing so. We just gotta shoot them at sight. And that's the thing, when we start treating our own citizens and our own people like animals, those are the signs that we are not headed in the right direction. Certainly not in the direction of being a great power and setting example for the world. Is this the kind of example we want to set? Usually when it comes to India, we are so proud of the things that our culture has given to the world, be it yoga, Ayurveda, even thousands of years ago, the Indian folks had knowledge of astronomical things. They could calculate the distance between the sun and the moon and the earth, the sun and the earth, to actually quite a precise value, within like I think 1% margin of error given in comparison to the modern means of equipment and calculations and math that we have. And when we are trying to become a great power, doing such things, does this, help our case? Is it inspiring for other people to follow our footsteps? Or does it give them a talking point to go against us? Yeah. So yeah, shooting aside, that is just absolutely insane. You're not even allowed to shoot animals that you see in the street. People are not even, allowed to shoot a rabid dog which is sick, and if the dog comes and eats your kid, you're not allowed to shoot it. You're supposed to call the police. But what happens when the police are given the orders to shoot people on site? Now, of course, there are other ways to deal with riots. You can contain the area, you can deploy a huge number of armed personnel, you can use tear gas, as they have been doing in the farmers' protest. People and the government is even using drones now. Originally, drone was supposed to be an agricultural product or a means of delivering goods from one place to another, or even at least keeping an eye on the enemy in the border lines, making sure nobody is crossing into our borders. And now we are using it to deploy tear gas. Now, I'm not against the use of tear gas because it is one of the non-violent measures to control the people who are about to destroy life and property for whatever the reason that is. You just cannot break the law. So of course tear gas is a nice thing, but once you start to use all these scientific tools, or rather the results of scientific advancement and engineering, to control the population in a weird way, I don't know how to think about it. You guys should go on your adventure and think about it for a second without your biases, which might be quite difficult. I know, of course, right? Because at the end, we are all emotional creatures and we have some personal biases, but it is also our responsibility to overcome those biases, or at least try to see beyond those biases that we have, of the preconceived notions that we have on any kind of people, any tribe of people, or any topic. Try to see where the facts lie, where the truth lies, and try to make sense of it all. So that was crazy. And just when I was thinking that is crazy, the shoot at sight order, that is, I found out that now you have to register every live-in relationship. Think about that. You have to, now I understand the sentiment behind it, because of course you get to see a lot of cases of demographic change in Uttarakhand. God damn it, Uttarakhand is supposed to be the Dev Bhumi, right? You have so many Hindu pilgrim sites there, Char Dhams and everything, and all the, even for Sikhs, I think there's Paonta Sahib and everything, Gurdwaras, and of course, if the states start to see a demographic change, well, the change of demography is not the worst thing, especially if they are Indian people just moving around in the states. There might be demographic change, but seeing, the change of demography in the name of love jihad, well, that's crazy. But that doesn't mean that we start to take away the rights of the people. Who is the government supposed to be? Government is supposed to be somebody who upholds the constitution, not just go beyond our rights, or rather take away the rights of the people. Because everybody is entitled to privacy. The government is not supposed to be under the bed of a couple making love and try to see, are they doing a good job? Are they from the same religion or not? We already have a problem, a cultural problem in this country where people are just too involved in each other's personal life. I mean, the parents of people usually do that, right? They don't let their kids usually date people from other caste, other religions, and everything, people who come from other cultures. But what happens when you make it illegal, right? And of course, like young couples, people who are just trying to see if they have a dynamic that wells together before they put a ring on the finger. They're just trying to see, are we compatible? Is this thing that we call love, is the thing we are feeling, is it going to last a long time, and can we make a bet on that? Should we invest our lives in that? And then suddenly the government or the registrars and the judges and the ministers and the politicians, they come into play. They're like, okay, you want to fuck somebody, you got to let us know. You want to live with them? Well, we do not accept or believe that even though you are fully functioning adults, we don't think that you have the ability to decide what is best for yourself. So we are going to come in and you got to tell us everything that you want to do in the bed. Are you going to get in the bed? It just sounds absurd to me. Now there are people who are saying that this might be one step closer towards normalizing freedoms, because usually live-in relationships don't even make the part of the big conversation. At least they didn't used to a couple of years back. Right now they are all in the news, but I don't think it is for the right reasons. You know, because if we want to make a change in a society, and the only way that the government would allow said and said change against the wishes of people is that by regulating it, it's just going to cause more problems. Not only it acts as an incentive for the bad actors or the societal people in the society who are against such notions. Not only they will infringe the right of these people who want to just spend their lives together or just want to live together for a while. Now they can use this law. I don't even know we should call it a law. It's insane. Yeah, so now it gives people a means to legally fuck with the people who you do not agree with. I mean, if we are going to go down that road, maybe we should start filing RTIs, right to information, and ask all these people and politicians that, hey, how many times did you fuck your wife? Do you have a kid? How many times did you get to fuck her before you had a kid? Have you ever done it in the ass? Do you like cream pies? Do you like blowjobs? And then the ministers and the registrars, all of them should be also, bound to tell us the answer. Maybe even show us a video. How do we know that? Is he your kid? You say he's your kid. But what reason do the people, the civilian, have to believe that? Are we supposed to just take your word for it? Has the government never done anything suspicious, sinister, something that not only go against their responsibilities but can also be considered a crime? Maybe we should ask that. If we are going to just make somebody's private life so public, then why should only be the civilians be subjected to such rules? Why should not the people, the ones who rule us, who control us, who set all the regulations and laws into the place, who are they to ask us that and not answer the question back in return? So it's a free world, it's a free country. And if you follow UCC, it says that it doesn't matter what your belief and religion is, you are equal in the eyes of law. So maybe you should also be able to get these answers from these people. And not just an answer they are willing to give, but an answer that they should be able to prove in the court of law. But then again, what happens when judges or the ones who are supposed to implement or enforce these laws, they are too are biased? Because at the end, of course, as I said, we are all humans. We are all emotional creatures, people. And we have our problems, we have our insights, we have our perspectives, we have our limitations. So I think, people should be given the ability to decide for themselves. And the best way is not to, use the law or force to break these things apart, or rather take the rights away or take liberties of people away. Rather, it is to have an open conversation. Let's debate the bad ideas. Why is that when such rules are passed, they are not, given or put up for a vote? Let the people vote. I was, just reading like a testimony about a couple. They are in a living relationship, and they have been together for a long time, and they'll probably spend the rest of their lives together. But they just do not wanna, you know, be bound by the institution of marriage, or give the state or the government power to dictate how their life should be and how they should spend their time together. Because usually, the people who want to go in a live-in relationship is that they're not sure about it, or maybe they do not want to deal with all the nonsense or shenanigans, drawbacks that comes with a legal contract of a marriage, right? But if you make them register that, it essentially defeats the whole purpose of the relationship. So to the people who say that they are getting one step closer towards accepting these new normals as the world progresses towards and our society changes, should we just nullify the whole point of it all, or should we put laws into the place which ultimately defeats the purpose of it? So you might say you are getting closer to accepting it, but the laws that you are putting in place or the measures that you're taking for it to become a normal part of society is gonna actually just nullify the whole point of it all. It just defeats the entire purpose. So what do you do then? These people, of course, this couple I was talking about, now they're saying that we might not just leave the state of Uttarakhand, might just leave India as a whole. And is it not like a loss for the country? These people who are highly paid, highly educated, tax-paying citizens who are law-abiding, they are, in a lot of ways, ideal citizens for the country. So using these practices, we are pushing them away. As I said, a couple of podcasts ago, a couple of episodes ago, that while we often, we are quick to talk about the brain drain and everything, we should pay attention that why are these such things happening. We just keep talking about the problem that the worthy Indians, or rather the people who are the strength and the backbone of this nation, financially, economically, and in other ways, why are we giving them more and more reasons to go elsewhere? These people are not breaking the law. They're doing everything an ideal citizen should. But then they are again, being forced to go elsewhere because we are not giving them a right environment to grow and flourish. Or rather, we are taking away the environment which has existed for a long time in the name of safety. You know, on this, I would like to, give you a quote. I'm not sure who said it. It could be Benjamin Franklin, could be somebody else. But the quote essentially goes something like that. If somebody is willing to give up a little bit of privacy and a little bit of liberty to get a little bit of security, then they deserve neither and they will end up losing both. That's just how control goes. You give an inch, you end up losing a foot. हाथ दो लोग हाथ ही खींच लेंगे, right? So yeah, we should let people decide, and we are going to take such strict measures. We should let people choose, people vote. Maybe there will be in the end some counties or some districts, some cities where these laws will be implemented because of the vote, and there might be some places where youth population or the demographic is stronger. They'll vote against us, or rather against that particular law or that particular section of that law, and which is essentially supposed to be a prime example of a democracy, of a free country, where people get to decide what kind of laws are going to be put in place that will then be implemented on those same people, instead of just creating rules and laws which will push everybody away, especially a big part of the demographic. Because usually, if you think about it, orthodox people, conventional, traditional morons, these people are usually not they are not the strength of the country. The youth is the strength of the country, especially highly educated youth who are making a lot of money for this country, paying their taxes. These are the future. So the people who are just old hags, have lost the touch of reality, should not put up rules for the youth, that is. The past should not decide what the future will be. The present should. Now, of course, past will affect the future. But we should not let the past completely guide the future because past is nothing more than a memory. What happened yesterday to you, it could have been the greatest day of your life, but today it is nothing more than a memory. And the future does not exist right now. So all you have is the present. So why do we let these people, these old orthodox people, dictate the terms for us? Because people and with their old ideas, their traditional and conventional thinking, will not make a future, or at least will not make a better future. It will only be a updated version or an iteration of the past. And the past of this country has not been good for the past 200, 300, 400 years. The people who have been brought up in that environment, they will not be able to take us towards a bright, progressive, liberal, free future. That also, points towards the problem that most of the people who are law deciding, regulators, politicians, judges, the ISs, these people are, they do not actually represent the thought or even the demographic or the society of a particular region. Because as the people grow, as people adopt new ideas, decide to live in a particular way, choose to live their lives in such and such way, we should not, let them dictate. Because it is just like having a maniacal, psychopathic parent who's bound to control every aspect of their children's life, even if it means at their detriment. Yeah. Speaking of too much government control, I recently found out that there has been a case booked against a journalist in Kerala. I think they are in some Malayalam magazine, and they had alleged that I think some political leader and their goons were behind the murder of yet another activist. And they did so in a Facebook post, and now a case has been booked against them. I think, I'm not sure, but I think it is under section 153 of the Indian Constitution, or rather the Penal Code, which says they had a intent to cause riot. And now, of course, they have been subjected to all the litigation, all the legal processes that are. And since the case has been, essentially made by the ruling party or the ones in power, I do not expect them to get a fair trial. Because that's just how the nature of power versus the powerless is. The powerful versus the powerless. Now, if the person is wrong in thinking that, or the political leader was not behind the murder or the beating or thrashing of this person who eventually succumbed to their injuries, we should let people decide. The information should be given to all the people, and it's not government's job to control or curb the information. Even if it is not correct, it is false, we should let people decide. You don't put somebody in jail just because they think earth is flat, or if they think that you're not supposed to eat a particular kind of food on Tuesdays. We let them live their lives based on their beliefs, and we let other people decide how they want to do it. And that's basically the essence of democracy. Because if you are not allowed to criticize, even wrongfully so, even if you are not allowed to wrongfully criticize somebody in power, then essentially what you are saying is that people are dumb. The civilians who voted you in power are dumb. And now you're going to take away their rights to decide for themselves what they think is right or wrong. or how much truth is in that particular statement or in that comment. The comment should not, take away people's right to go on an adventure with truth. And that's what I want to say about it. And it's not even the first case, that I think this is something that we really need to be cautious about. Somebody saying something on the internet, and people say all kinds of shit on the internet, especially because, people will trash each other or they'll have fights because they're not worrying about getting punched in the face. Somebody might say something shitty to you online, but they might not, well, they will most likely, and in most cases, will not say it to your face. Why? Because there can be physical consequences in the physical world, which is not the case in the digital world. It's not that this person, tried to slap the political leader or tried to harm them in any way physically. They just made a case against it. And people should be able to, decide. And we should not just, put people in jail or rather register a case against them for something they said online. Was it nuanced? Maybe there were other things that you need to take into what consideration. Yeah. So that is, I found it very disheartening. And these are things which keep me conflicted. Because on one hand, of course, there is a lot of development going on in the country. The culture is changing. We are changing the education system, things in the curriculum that is being taught to the people. We're changing it, right? Because we understand there are some problems with it, and we have not been teaching the greatness of the old Indian or the ancient Indian culture. And yet, on another hand, we are just taking the, what do you say, a draconian approach, or the lack of a better term right now, off the top of my head. We cannot use draconian dictatorial measures to move forward unless we are trying to make a dystopian future, which I hope we are not, because I'm not about that. That's the thing about dreaming for utopia while walking on the path of dystopia. Utopia actually, the word itself has Greek roots, and it has two meanings, which is one is that the ideal free world, the place that is supposed to be, but it also means a place that cannot be. Think about it for a second. Maybe that should, give you some insights about India becoming a great superpower and an example for the world. A place that is supposed to be, but it cannot be. Now, it could be because of the way we approach these problems, or it could be due to the nature. Because at the end, while we pound our chest saying we are the, largest democracy in the world, it's not actually a free democracy, or rather a total democracy, I should say. And it's not that there is some better example, because there clearly isn't. We say, everybody, it's one vote, one value, and the people decide. But people only decide who gets to put in power, and they have to choose from only a small handful of options. Some options might not be as great as we would like it to be, but if that's all we have, then we are forced to choose among that. But that does not mean it, represents the sentiment or the desires of the people. And I think this is the right time to segue into the controlled state that is Russia. There's this, journalist Tucker Carlson. He did an interview with Russian President Putin. And I don't know what you think about it, but essentially his goal was that I don't know what this person Putin will say, but we are so highly subjected and force fed the information from Western propaganda. Maybe we should, see what the Eastern propaganda is like. So he sat down with Putin and he did like a 2 hour interview, sort of like a podcast. And Putin revealed a lot of things about the war, about the reasons he did so. And of course, it's like Russia invaded their own Pakistan. which is something, some people might say that India should do too, although Pakistan is not, as powerful a state, at least without all the weapons from the Western countries. But the case was essentially that you keep pushing NATO into my territory. And I have been willing to talk. That's what Putin said. But there's nobody to talk to me. I want to negotiate. I want to put this to an end. Because I don't want to kill the people. A lot of Ukrainians, people there, speak Russian. They identify and their relatives, their families are in Russia. So I don't want to do that, but there is nobody who I can talk to or I can negotiate with. One thing he didn't say is actually there was even, at the behest of America, the United States, there was even a bioweapons research that was going in Ukraine. And of course, Russia being the biggest or largest neighbor who is, facing a threat from the West. What else, would you have him do? Now the answer, of course, it took him about what 30 minutes to answer that question. But he did, showed where he is coming from. And recently I just found out that the only opposition leader in Russia which could have, stood against the election against Putin mysteriously died. He was sent in a prison on some charges. And that prison is essentially, where people are sent to die. It's brutally cold there. Sometimes you're not given the medical treatments when you're in that particular prison. It's like Kala Pani they have. And that person died there. Which reminds me that, of course, at the end, for the lack of a better term, Putin is a gangster. Some people like that definition, some people don't. I don't fully agree with it, but as I said, in the English, Hindi, or Sanskrit, any vernacular or any language, there's not a perfect way to describe this person. He's quite unique in that way, That was kind of insane. And of course, now there is no opposition leader, which is also, similar to the case that we are facing in India right now. There is nobody who can actually, even compete with Narendra Modi. I mean, of course, the man is quite talented and good at what he do. Not everything he do is good, but he is good at what he do. And of course, people are expecting a majority in the Indian constitution, or rather, sorry, the election results. They're aiming for more than 400 seats. Every other day, you're just seeing MLAs and MPs getting detached from their previous parties, thrown around like it's like a juggling that is going on. We'll take this person here, we'll throw it here. We'll put it in our party, take them from this party, we'll annoy this person, he'll go back to this party. But yeah, the third time is usually, not the best time. Modi 3.0, I don't know, I'm not actually very excited for it, but I will say that he is probably the best man for the job. He's not perfect, but we don't have anybody better. And he has definitely, put India on the global map in a way which nobody else has been able to do before him. The people and the ministers that he has appointed are quite frankly, they are merit based after a long time, be it Jaishankar, be it Gadkari. At least these people are, patriots. So while they might be flawed in their thinking and some things they are doing will end up definitely hurting the country, at least they have, good intentions. Which is not something you could say for people who have ruled us so far. Barring a few examples, of course, right? So yeah, that's, now if you talk about this journalist getting arrested or getting a case filed against them, and then you map all that on top of a total victory, an unprecedented victory in the country after the elections, it does not give a very satisfying feeling or a sense of hope that the voices will be heard in a way which actually, betters us or takes us towards a better future, takes us towards the great power which we once were. more than 500 years ago. We really need to, as citizens, it is our responsibility to stand against these measures that the government is employing. I think, was it Gandhi who said it or no? Somebody wise said it, right? Not that Gandhi was very wise. He was smart and cunning for sure. But somebody has said it, that first the enemy came for the Christians, and I didn't do anything because I was not a Christian. And they came for the Muslims, and I didn't help them because I was not a Muslim. And then they came for me, and by that time there was nobody left to help me. Let it settle in. Think about the statement. Even if we do not agree with everybody's ideas, we must acknowledge that there are certain rights which are, given to the people in this country. And even if the government who are once in power, if they are trying to take away those rights or rather infringe on those liberties and freedoms of the people, we should hold them accountable. We should stand up that yes, this journalist is not right. He's making a fool of himself. He's making allegations which are not true. But in the name of freedom of speech, he is allowed to express himself. In the largest the largest democracy in the world, this person has a right to express themselves. Even you might not agree with him, but we have to listen to the other side. You have to, no matter how much you disagree with them, how much you dislike them, how much you even hate them. Because unless you are willing to hear them, listen to them, listen to consider, or rather willing to consider the alternate possibilities, you might just, end up falling prey to propaganda of one particular side or the narrative. Yeah, you get to hear a lot about narratives these days. If people are not paying attention, it is quite easy to fool them. Because often, even though if your opposition or the people that you do not agree with are saying a lot of things, there is always a chance that maybe 1% of their information might be true, maybe 5% might be true, or maybe 99% of it be true. But how will you know unless you hear them out? And even if it is not true, it might give you some ideas how to deal with truths better. And it is your responsibility to go on that adventure with truth and figure out for yourself. When you walk out into the world, you see those things happening. I've heard a lot of stories about Bengal, that is, we say it's democracy, but people are not even allowed to vote there. When it's election season, the goons, hired killers and gundas and gangsters, they come to your house, they put election ink on your finger, they take away your voting IDs and say, thank you for voting this country. Thank you for voting, and we'll get back to you. And then they cast vote on the behalf of these people. So is that democracy? Is that freedom? Is that Azad Bharat? Is it? Does not look like it to me. But you can decide for yourself. Even I think about, discussing these ideas. If somebody just can be, put in jail for expressing themselves or even trying to start a conversation which might not be appreciated by somebody in power, it is still our right to do so. And at the end, we are the ones who put them in power. Because essentially, the constitution or the law bodies, they are a contract. They are a contract between the people and the government. The government says we will give you these rights, you are allowed to do this, do that, and in exchange, you will follow the rules we make. You will give us a part of your money, your hard-earned money, and we'll do certain things with that money. Some of those things will be to your benefit. Some of it will be used, to keep our country strong in the long run. But at the end, it is a contract. And if one party is not fulfilling their end of the contract, then the ones who put them in power have a right, have rather a responsibility, a goddamn duty to mention that there has been a breach of this contract. You're not doing that what you're supposed to do. So let us do what we think is necessary and put somebody else in charge. But before you can say that, before you are even allowed to find out the information which might help you take a better decision, or rather more informed decision, that information itself is suppressed. And the people who are trying to propagate that information or bring it to light, they are put in jail. Now, as I said, could be right, could be wrong, but it is the responsibility of the common man to figure out for himself and not just take everything that the government or even the journalists are saying. No? Decide for yourself, people. Decide. Is this the kind of path that we want our country to go? Are these the power who will rather be, you know, rather will put us not on a path of greatness, but rather on a path of failure, anarchy, and total chaos? But of course, people in their busy day to day lives, not everybody has the time, but well, we all are given the same time. Everybody has 24 hours in a day. We all have just one lifetime to figure it out, to live it all, to seek truth, and then live our lives based on that. It is our responsibility. Just like it is the responsibility of these farmers to make sure that you do not fuck with the people of Delhi. Now let's talk about the farmers' protest for a second. A couple hundred or a couple thousand farmers are trying to essentially shut down the national capital. This city is home to 30 million people. 3 to 4 crore people live here. And just because your demands are not getting fulfilled does not mean you get to shut down our city. Recently, I heard that, somebody was in an ambulance and they were being taken to the hospital, but due to the jam around the protesters and the shutting down of the city, they couldn't reach the hospital on time and they died. So, should we not hold these farmers responsible for it? Farming happens in almost every state in the country, and it just so happens that these two particular states are causing all the chaos. Why is that? Two states which are probably the richest in terms of agricultural revenue and income, the probably the richest farmers in the country are protesting. Why are the other people not protesting? Why are they not asking for MSPs? Well, I'll tell you why. You see, at the end of this protest lies laziness and corruption. That's what it is. Because essentially the issue is the government is saying we are not going to give you MSPs for rice and wheat. Because there are two reasons. First reason is that growing rice and wheat in that particular region is going to destroy the ecosystem. It is already, destroying the ecosystem. These are water intensive crops. You need a lot of water to grow these crops, and given the type of soil you have in Punjab and Haryana, it's not good to grow it there. And on top of that, if you consider all the free electricity and the subsidies and fertilizer and everything which is given to the farmers, and the agricultural income is not even taxed, what more do you want? You will just keep growing the crops which are not even needed right now. We have a surplus of food. There is nobody who's dying or starving. We have plenty of food in this country. We are even exporting it elsewhere. So we don't need you to grow this. So why is the government liable to write off all your loans and give you a fixed price? Because the moment you do that, it will artificially inflate the price of food in this country. If the government is bound to buy the food at a higher price or at a price which does not meet the value, given the demand in the market right now, it will just put the country further into debt. Right? We try to make so much money as a country, but we have so much debt on us that we just end up paying the interest. We are not even paying back the principal amount. And there is a lot of debt on the country, on the states as well. A lot of states owe a lot of money to the central government. The central government owes money to private companies and banks, international monetary agencies. And giving that will also inflate the prices. It will put us further into debt, and it will destroy the ecosystem. I've already talked about the expanding Thar desert, the desertification. It's a barren land, does not have water, it cannot even hold water now. And the desert is expanding. And the first states which is it's gonna expand to is probably gonna be Punjab and Haryana. It's not gonna go towards Gujarat because Gujarat has much more of a tropical climate and it is a coastal state. But of course, these farmers, the rich farmers who have, you know, prospered so much as a result of green revolution, they do not understand that. The government is saying, why don't you grow fruits and vegetables? We'll give you subsidies for that. We'll give you MSP for that as well. Grow millets, grow ragi. Why is that you only want to grow rice and wheat? Well, the answer is because you don't have to put in a lot of effort for it. And you just want the government to pay you for it even though you don't want to work hard. Seems like the start of communism to me. It's commies motherfuckers, man. Fucking commies. A journalist who, got a case against in Kerala, they too are fighting a fucking commie government. Commie and Marxist. God damn it, the world has moved on from these medieval ideas and for a country which aspires to be great and who boast their chest that, South Indian states have the highest literacy. They do not even understand these basic terms. And they're trying to support a party, put them in power. They literally have communism and Marxism in their fucking name. But more evidence do you need? Huh? It's not beyond reasonable doubt, but it should raise a doubt. And as a result, these bunch of few hundred, selfish people, let's not go too far to hurt their feelings and get their panties wet. But these people are trying to, fuck with the national capital. And the way I see it, it is a matter of national security. What happens if, now suddenly Pakistan decides to send some of their criminals and terrorists over into these states? Punjab, that is. How will India be able to deploy our troops if you have blocked every single road by your fucking tractors and everything? Are you not jeopardizing the safety of the nation? And these kind of protests are going around in many countries too. Germany, France, even parts of America. And people, of course, do not understand the nuanced conversation that there are many factors at play and the organizations, the people in the world who do not wish well for our country are actually, giving resources, ideas and strategic policies or know-hows and measures how to do this. And these stupid farmers who do not understand that they are being played for a fool, being played as a pawn in this war, they are just more than happy to come and block the national capital. I mean, think about it. With ambulances, people are not being able to get to the hospital in need of an extreme health emergency. Why? Because somebody do not want to work hard and they just want to use the pre-built water canals. They want to use the free electricity and destroy the ecosystem, but keep growing the same crop which will degrade the land, and then you will not be able to grow anything there. You motherfuckers will starve to death. Now some of these people will just use this money. They go live in Canada and whatnot. They'll just jump ships and leave the country in much worse of a place than it already is. And you won't even see most of the media outlets, so-called journalists, talk about this situation or about the gravity of this situation, how deep it is. There's a particular channel on YouTube, I don't know if I should name him. They call themselves the Desh Bhakt or something like that, patriot. And they're just saying, that, this is happening, the poor farmers. Well, they are not the poor farmers, they are actually the richest farmers in the country, the farmers who live in Punjab and Haryana. How else do you have such big tractors which can run over the barricades, cement blocks? A normal tractor cannot do that, it is only supposed to plow the land. So how have you been able to modify your vehicle to a crazy point where you can act like a militia in a free country like India? Who gives you the right to shut down the lives of 3 crore people? Huh? Aren't we the people who are gonna buy our crops in the first place? Is it right to piss us off, shut us down, take away our means to, go to work, go to hospitals, go out, even get out of the house? Who are you to do that? Huh? If you want to protest, well, why don't you protest to your own government? Why do you gotta come to Delhi? Is it because it is politically motivated? That seems to be the case to me right now. And that's the thing, everybody just, it also, goes back to that mama's boy ideology that I talked about a couple of episodes ago. We do not want to work hard, so we'll go to the mama, the big daddy, and we'll complain to the government. While the government is actually, trying to give us all the things, all the facts, all the resources to actually come out of this particular problem and make better for ourselves, make a better future for ourselves. But no, we want to stay in the past and we will do things in the present which will ensure that our past becomes our future. And that means the future will not be bright. Not to mention all the crazy terrorist activities which are supported by some of these groups. It's kind of, I hope that people are not getting sentimental over this and they are able to make sense of it all without getting carried away by the talking points or the narratives that the people from the opposition are saying, because it is actually quite a pressing matter. Punjab, Haryana, they are some of the greenest states. But if you keep destroying the ecosystem by growing these particular crops and not recycling the natural nutrition of the soil, you will essentially make the entire thing a desert. Now, what will happen then? It will cause mass starvation. We already know that people from UP and Bihar who go to work in these states, they face a lot of discrimination. They're often just butchered, like not even treated like human beings. Every day you get to hear, cases about shootings and people are getting lynched, people are hanged, and they're getting beaten. So it does not look like a place or rather people who I want to listen to. So in that sense, actually, I really hope that the government do not succumb to the pressure and move forward. And it's not actually, I would say, it's not a coincidence that the same government which has been responsible for the lack of any kind of development in the city is also the ruling party in the Punjab. Think about that. Think about that. You know, it is insane, man. Every day it seems we stray farther and farther away from logic, truths, freedom, open discussions. There are people who are, trying to undermine our democracy. And it should actually, worry people. Now, I'm not saying that the sky is falling and it is total alarm bell, but it is something that people should consider. Or at least, some of those people should be taught about these things. People keep saying we want the Swaminathan Convention and whatever the rules he said in his book. But those are all ideas. And given where we stand today, they are not applicable now. We cannot implement them because it will come at a huge cost, only at our detriment. Only at our detriment. You know. But why is people not, rather growing the crops? If you actually want to make money, if people in these states want to ensure that whatever they grow in the land, whatever the kind of farming they do, they want to get ensured incentives. So why don't you grow the things which will give you incentive as they are being promised by the government right now? Laziness, corruption, lack of knowledge, misinformation, and of course ulterior motives. This is the same, communist mindset. Even when, the Nazi Germany fell, even when Soviet Union fell, people thought, that these stupid ideas of communism and socialism, the ideas will go away. But so far they have not, even decades after that. So the examples live today. Those people who were ruling those particular regions in that part of the world may have gone away, but the idea still remains. And you know what they say about ideas, Idea is the most contagious thing of it all. Even more than viruses, even more than artificially fabricated viruses coming out of Institute of Virology in Wuhan, which was supposed to be a again bioweapons research, as they were also trying to do in Ukraine. Ideas are way more contagious. And Sam Harris, as I was listening to his podcast, he very well said that sometimes it is way easy to make a mess than it is to clean it up. Think about it. It takes so much time to create any architecture, any system, any infrastructure, but it is quite easy to destroy something rather than trying to improve it. So we should be careful while we let people make a mockery of the freedoms that they are given. Now, of course, I keep talking about freedom. Now, some people might say it is the right of the farmers or the people to protest, even if they are not right. Well, yes, it is, but it is not their right to shut down the city, a city of fucking 30 million people, which is also the national capital, which is also where the parliament sits, which is also where the headquarters of the Indian Army is. And of course, is it or not country gonna take a hit for it? You're asking money for the government, but your actions are ultimately slowing down the economy in that very particular region. So while the person who you are asking money from does not already have enough money, and giving you money will artificially increase the price of food across the country. Now you're only making sure that the people have even less money, which will ensure that your demands are not met. And even if they are, it will not bring you any good, at least not in the long run. So you should think about that, people. Think about that. You should, of course, now, of course, you might, I hope you might, or I hope you are actually seeing that on one hand, yes, there are steps that the government has to take and ignore the plea of the people because people might not be aware of these situations. And as we see in the farmers' protest, well, on the same hand, there's the opposite side of the same hand, which is supposed to bitch slap you. You should also remember that not everything the government do, while they're trying to say you might not be aware of these situations, not everything they do will do us good. Now, in the case of Uttarakhand, government was more than happy to be transparent about demolishing a madrasa, which they should be. I appreciate that. Fucking break down the madrasas, man. Take away all these nonsense. Because something people that don't understand is madrasas are not the same as mosques. They're quite different, serve different purposes, target different audiences. So yeah, in that case, they were more than happy to be transparent. Oh, it's built on a government land. Now we're gonna make a police station here. It was not legal. It was made on this date, so and so. Very nice. But when it comes to asking you who you are allowed to put your dick inside, we will not tell you who we fuck, how many scandals we have, we the politicians. Now, in this case, we will not give you transparency. We will not even give you the numbers, how the society feels about it, or would this law be implemented if it was put to vote. You know, just trying to cherry pick where they want to give transparency to the people. So maybe we should, start using our right to information more and more. We should, I would like to see people filing RTIs for all kinds of things. Because at the end, for a truly functioning democracy, not only you need bad ideas to be allowed and not have people put in jail for having bad ideas, but rather we should give it full transparency. That this is why you have a bad idea. You think this activist died because they were, going against a particular politician. Well, this is the transparent thing of the details. Prove them wrong with facts instead of just silencing them. Now, I told you the facts about the farmers' protest, and I also told you the facts about the UCC which is being implemented in the Uttarakhand. And wait till it gets nationwide. It might go crazy. Now, of course, there are some parts of the country which are highly advanced. For instance, you take Sikkim. Sikkim is like there, people are so advanced that we are facing a problem similar to South Korea, where people are not being born. While you go to other states like Punjab and Haryana, here the population and fertility is still going pretty high. Which is, I think, one of the problems with the country, that While yes, we are so diverse and colorful in our ways, but this diversity gives us so many diverse problems that nobody, even a I don't know, even a magician with a wand can solve all the problems because everybody wants something else, and we do not have a common denominator which we are willing to agree. At least we should, agree on the fact that we want a free country where we practice true democracy, transparency, true transparency, as much as there is possible. We give transparency, freedom, power to the people, and we reduce government's intervention in people's private lives. And the people who are trying to challenge the government, we should have an open discussion about it. Now, like, of course, now there's not going to be any more parliamentary sessions. And the last one, Modi came back and gave a kick-ass speech. That was funny. He even roasted some people, which was actually nice to see. But maybe we should have, he should have given few points about this discussion because, of course, people from across the nation would be watching that. So it would not be, bad or too much of a stretch to give these subtle details about the problems that are going and why is the government not doing this. It will actually even, enhance people's trust in the government, trust which they have rightfully lost because of their actions in the past decades, especially the past 4 years, ever since the pandemic and everything. So, yeah, people, more RTIs, more transparency, true democracy, discuss all the ideas. Do not put people in jail for something they say unless they are advocating violence, which this person is not, this journalist is not. And maybe then we can finally say that we are on the path towards not be only a great economic superpower, but actually be a superpower that people look up to, a country which people all across the world want to be a part of. Recently the government took away the OCIs, which is the overseas citizenship of Indians, of some people, which is basically a permanent green card type situation which is given to the people who are not Indians but they have been living in India for a long time, and the government took away their OCIs of all the journalists who were actually shit talking about India and saying bad things which might hurt the country. Instead of doing that, why don't we just the government put out a notice that these are the reasons that these people are wrong. This is all the facts. These are the reasons that whatever they are saying is not true, and they have a certain ulterior motive for it. That seems like a better approach for it. Because at the end, if you just take away their residentships in countries, like there was a French journalist who is saying, "Oh, after 20 years, I have to leave the country." Instead of doing that, why don't the government? We should, I think, the government should follow their own policy of RTIs and give the information that this is what this person has said. This is why this is harming our country, and this is why I believe you should not listen to this particular person anymore. And let the people decide what they want. In the name of Loktantra, I'll see you next episode, people. Think about it. Stay wise, stay beautiful.